In a previous episode, I discussed melatonin as it relates to sleep and how it also helps restore immune system function that often declines during the aging process. Today, I'm going to discuss the many other things we know about melatonin, including its effects on blood pressure regulation, digestive health, and bone building. Just a quick review from my last melatonin episode. For sleep, melatonin regulates your sleep and awake cycle. This is very important for aging, where we start to lose control of our circadian rhythm. Now, our circadian rhythm is the ability of our brain to control the body's rhythms when you are hungry and want to eat, when you go to the bathroom, controlling your temper, but also when you go to sleep, when you wake up. We lose control of this with age, and this is a bad part of the aging process. It accelerates many things that we do not want to occur in our life, and melatonin has an impact on reversing that and restoring control. Melatonin also helps offset the effects aging has on the immune system. It's called Immuno Senescence, a condition that becomes fairly common in our 60s. With immune senescence, it's more difficult for our immune system to protect us from viruses like the coronavirus and other infections, but also likely cancer. And those with a drop in the level of melatonin, taking a supplement helps reverse the decline in immune system function and immune system control. So darkness triggers the release of melatonin from a small gland near the center of your brain called the pineal gland. That sets you up for sleep. And at one time, we thought this was the only site of melatonin release. We now know that our immune system cells can actually manufacture and release melatonin. There's a feedback loop there. This demonstrates the importance of melatonin to our immune system. The immune system cells release melatonin, and melatonin helps the immune system cells work better. So that's pretty cool. It's also released by our digestive tract. We will discuss this in a bit, but first let's discuss the effects of melatonin on our blood pressure. So welcome to our melatonin effects beyond sleep and the immune system episode. Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a pharmacist who also has studied nutrition, and I'm over here at Invite Health. I'm also the scientific director, and I'd like to talk to you today about the many benefits of melatonin for its effects on blood pressure control, digestion, etc. We'll go into this. Please be sure to subscribe to the Invite Health podcast, and please leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. All of the information on today's episode will be linked in the episode description, and you can visit invitehealth.com/podcast for more info. So let's get going. Melatonin helps adjust blood pressure a point or two in the general public and people with normal blood pressure, and that has a benefit for the general population. Lowering blood pressure a point or two helps prevent the onset of heart disease later in life. But for people with elevated blood pressure, it really makes an impact. Now, just to make it clear, melatonin does not replace your high blood pressure medication. It's adjunctive for hypertension, meaning you add it on and it's helpful. And very much so, but to a point. Its effects do plateau. However, it's important for many to take, especially for those who do not experience a normal drop in blood pressure that occurs at night. At night, your blood pressure is supposed to decline a bit, and so is your body temperature. For some people who resist that, it's actually a little bit dangerous. The most common time that we experience heart attacks is when we wake up from a nap or wake up early in the morning. This is because the body floods itself with hormones to increase our metabolism, increase our blood pressure and blood flow, and that elevates our blood pressure. So if your blood pressure didn't adjust at night, that's kind of like a double whammy on your blood pressure. Now, I'm a strong believer in nutrition. I'm a pharmacist, but I've done a lot of research and studying on nutrition. I've taken many courses. And I know that nutrition really helps people with high blood pressure. The real name is hypertension. And I'm also aware that some individuals refuse to take medication even when it's very helpful. See, medication for high blood pressure, it's a lot safer to take that medication than to suffer with high blood pressure. High blood pressure can destroy your heart, your blood vessels, your kidneys, and your brain. In fact, there's some drugs for high blood pressure that are they have a lot of different benefits, like losartan. We're not talking really about drugs here, but let me talk about losartan for a minute. It's an ARB. It inhibits a process in the kidneys, the renin-angiotensin pathway. for treating high blood pressure. It really works. But it has a lot of additional benefits. With medication, it's not one size fits all when it comes to treating high blood pressure. Certain drugs work better in some individuals, certain drugs work better in others. But if you can take losartan to control your blood pressure, you'll get many additional benefits. I actually think it's one of the better drugs. It lowers uric acid. It's the only high blood pressure treating drug that's been proven to lower uric acid. Uric acid is in a range typically with your lab normal between like 3 and like, let's say 8. It varies from lab to lab depending on the type of testing they use. But all the research shows that when your uric acid is above 6, which is still within the normal level according to your lab result, that increases your risk of stroke and heart attack even if you're a normal healthy individual. So for people with diabetes or high blood pressure, it's a double whammy. It becomes very dangerous. It really increases their risk of a stroke or heart attack. Taking losartan, you urinate out some of the uric acid. It lowers your uric acid by about 20% just by taking losartan. So that's a nice additional benefit, and it does it without triggering a gout attack. Now, it also lowers your risk of Alzheimer's. And it may do this in everybody, not just people with high blood pressure. It also clicks your mood up a couple of levels. Many of the drugs used for treating high blood pressure can actually dampen your mood a little bit. Losartan also protects your kidneys and your heart muscle, all this while lowering your blood pressure. So if you had to take a high blood pressure drug and losartan fits the bill for you, that's really not a bad one. But our focus here is melatonin, which is safe to add to your high blood pressure treating medication. And it's safe to use alone also, of course. By the way, the mineral magnesium, red beets, the skin of the tart cherry, the Montmorency tart cherry, and aged garlic, and in people with metabolic syndrome, grapeseed extract are very helpful for normalizing high blood pressure. And I've done episodes on each of these and who they may help and what to expect from them. So you might want to check out those other podcasts. Of course, there's lifestyle adjustments to implement. Losing weight helps lower your blood pressure. Cutting back on salt. There was this great study from London several years ago. People in London were using amazing amounts of salt. They were putting salt on salty foods like dehydrated soup. You know, the soup where you add water and you boil in the microwave. There's so much salt in that. Adding salt to pizza, adding salt to cheese, adding salt to bacon. It's like poison. In any event, when they cut down the amount of salt these Londoners were using, it was a study of about 11,000 people. It really cut back on the number of people who had strokes and heart attacks. So cutting salt is important. Losing weight is important. Adding vegetables and some fresh fruit to your diet is important because it gives you potassium, which helps adjust your blood pressure. We also have an episode on potassium for hypertension, by the way. Let's go to a quick break, but when we come back, we'll discuss melatonin and blood pressure.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit invitehealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's invitehealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at invitehealth.com. You can also learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
Okay, welcome back. Now let's discuss melatonin and blood pressure. The first study I saw on melatonin and high blood pressure was led by a Harvard Medical School researcher named Dr. Frank Shear. He notes that many people with high blood pressure do not release adequate melatonin at night. His team found that those people have disturbances of their circadian rhythm, their daytime, nighttime, internal clock. His team gave people with untreated essential hypertension. Essential hypertension, they don't know the cause. You can't always find the cause of somebody's high blood pressure. They gave them a dose of melatonin for one night. This had no effect. But when they gave them repeat doses of melatonin, they gave them melatonin every night for 2 weeks, had a clinically important effect on lowering their blood pressure. It lowered the systolic blood pressure by 6 points. That's important. And it lowered diastolic blood pressure by 4 points, which is probably even more important. Systolic blood pressure is when the heart is actively pumping out oxygen-rich blood to the body. Diastolic blood pressure is when the heart's getting a little break. It's getting a little rest. It's when the heart's refilling in between pumping. Now, bear in mind, the heart pumps blood 80 times a minute. So that's a pump every 3/4 of a second, a little over 100,000 times a day, over 36 million times per year. So if that heart doesn't get that little rest, it puts an amazing amount of strain and stress on the heart. It can damage the heart and the blood vessels in the heart. And this, of course, leads to strokes and heart attacks. So lowering that diastolic blood pressure by 4 points, it's really important. In a study from Western University in Ontario, up in Canada, researchers report that our cardiovascular system has melatonin receptor sites. In other words, there's sites in our blood vessels and our heart that only accept melatonin, and without melatonin, it affects their function. In human clinical trials of patients with essential hypertension, melatonin is useful for lowering high blood pressure, and for patients with nocturnal hypertension, those whose blood pressure doesn't adjust downward a little bit at night, it has a significant impact on lowering blood pressure in both of these groups. In a meta-analysis of 5 clinical trials published in the journal Hormones and Metabolic Research, it was found that, on average, melatonin lowered systolic blood pressure by about 4 points and diastolic blood pressure by a bit over 3 points. This is enough to lower the risk of stroke a level or two in people with elevated blood pressure. Now, as mentioned in the start of this episode, our digestive tract has the ability to make and release melatonin. And it also has receptor sites for melatonin, indicating the digestive tract requires melatonin for either its function or its health, or both. Turns out it's both. A study published in the World Journal of Gastroenterology demonstrates the vastness of melatonin's impact on your digestive tract. Our pineal gland releases melatonin at night to help set us up for sleep. The digestive tract literally releases 400 times more melatonin than is released by the pineal gland at bedtime. So melatonin is involved with moving food down the digestive tract. That's important because there's different stages of digesting your food. You start in the mouth when you chew, when you masticate, and when you release enzymes and fluid in the mouth to break down the food. Then it goes down to the stomach, where there's liquids and acids released to create chyme, this thick goop stew of food. It moves into the small intestines, where you release enzymes to break down food further, and then it moves down into the colon, the large bowel, the large intestine, where there's muscular contraction and there's bacteria and a whole bunch of other things are going down to further break down food into its most common denominator, the smallest particles, to release all those amazing nutrients from your food that lower your risk of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia, etc. So the digestive tract releases 400 times more melatonin than the pineal gland does near bedtime. That's really important. Once again, melatonin is involved with moving food down the digestive tract and releasing digestive juices to make the breakdown of food possible, but also with regulating the bacteria in the intestines, reducing inflammation in the intestines, and improving immune system function in our intestines. 70% of our immune cells reside in the lining of our digestive tract, cells like neutrophils and macrophages, etc. Melatonin is involved with helping to regulate these immune cells. Melatonin is also involved in regulating the balance of bacteria towards good bacteria in our colon, our large intestine, for healthy digestion, for healthy immunity, and for lowering the risk of colon cancer, by the way. You need those good bacteria to help protect you from polyps. So let's talk about some of the digestive tract conditions that melatonin has been proven to help. But first, let's go to a quick break. I'll be right back.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit invitehealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's invitehealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at invitehealth.com. You can also learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
Okay, welcome back. Jerry Hickey, pharmacist, nutritionist, Invite Health episode on all the different things that melatonin could do for you beyond the immune system and beyond a nice night's sleep. Irritable bowel syndrome is a common disorder. It affects a large number of Americans, tens of millions of Americans. It affects their intestines, their large intestine. Common symptoms are cramping, abdominal pain, bloating, swelling and distension, gas, flatulence, diarrhea and constipation. Some people have both. Fortunately, IBS is not connected to colon cancer. IBS is the accepted abbreviation for irritable bowel syndrome. Things that set off irritable bowel syndrome, allergies like seasonal allergies, emotional stress. In clinical trials of patients with IBS, melatonin reduces the swelling of the digestive tract, the distension. It relieves the abdominal pain, and it helps restore regularity. So it helps that balance between diarrhea and constipation. Additionally, it improves sleep, anxiety, and depression. Now, GERD is more serious. GERD is a common disease. It's a serious disease. In GERD, people suffer from severe heartburn continuously. There's a trapdoor between your stomach and your esophagus. The esophagus is the pipe from your mouth down to from your throat down to your stomach. So there's a sphincter that prevents the stomach contents from refluxing back up into the esophagus. In people with GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, it's not functioning properly, and stomach acids and stomach content are shooting up into their mouth. And it could be dangerous. It can lead to Barrett's esophagus. Barrett's esophagus means the cells in the esophagus are damaged and they're mutating, and it increases their risk of esophageal cancer. Doctors typically prescribe very powerful drugs called proton pump inhibitors to treat GERD. These drugs completely shut down the production of stomach acids. So there's no powerful acid regurgitating up into the throat and mouth. Omeprazole is an extremely commonly prescribed proton pump inhibitor. In this study published in the journal BMC Gastroenterology, using melatonin alone over a 1 month to 2 month period, it really helped people with GERD. It helped them. It helped their suffering. But adding it to omeprazole worked better than using this commonly prescribed drug only. It really had an impact. Melatonin improved the function of the lower esophageal sphincter. In other words, the trapdoor above your stomach was working better. It was preventing the stomach acids from floating up into the mouth, from being regurgitated. It reduced the amount of acid refluxing into the mouth and throat. It reduced pain. It reduced heartburn. It made the pH of the upper digestive tract less acidic. It improved healing. So those studies provide powerful evidence that melatonin is required by the digestive tract. So let's go to another quick break, and when we come back, I'll discuss melatonin and bone health because it really does matter.
This podcast is brought to you by InviteHealth.com. For over 20 years, Invite Health has provided premium quality supplements and expert advice you can trust. Now, first-time customers can enjoy an exclusive offer. Visit invitehealth.com/podcast or click the link in this episode description. That's invitehealth.com/podcast for your exclusive offer on Invite Health products. Invite Health offers the resources you need to make important decisions about your health. Chat live with degreed healthcare professionals, get product information, and find retail locations near you at invitehealth.com. You can also learn learn about our new genetic testing program and our exclusive Invite Fitness Wellness program. Follow Invite Health on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast today. Now back to our episode.
Okay, welcome back. Melatonin really has a good impact on bone health. Aarhus University is a well-regarded research hub in Denmark. Now, these Danish researchers placed 81 older women. These women suffered with osteopenia on 1 milligram of melatonin or 3 milligrams of melatonin or a placebo every night for 1 year. Osteopenia is bone loss. There's a worse progression called osteoporosis that really increases your risk of a broken hip or broken spine. Osteopenia is a little bit earlier in bone loss, but you still have an increased risk of a fracture, of a weak bone-related fracture. Brittle bones. It's the start of brittle bone disease. Now, the results were, I would say, spectacular. I don't like to use flowery words like that when I describe a study, but it really meant something. Bone mineral density at the femoral neck improved by 0.5%. Now, the femoral neck is typically where you have a fractured hip, so it means something. And that's in the 1 milligram group. In the 3 milligram group, there was a strong 2.3% improvement in bone mineral density of the hip bone, the femoral neck. That's impressive. Bone mineral density of the spine improved by 3.6% in the 3 milligram group. 3.6% improvement in spinal bone health. The loss of calcium in the urine declined by 12.2%. This is powerful evidence of melatonin's bone-enhancing activity. There was another very important study from Duquesne University and the Mayo Clinic. It's published in the journal Aging. It was postmenopausal women again. They were supplemented with a combination of nutrients: melatonin, the mineral strontium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, or they were given placebo every day for a year. The supplements improved bone mineral density in the spine by 4.3%. That's unbelievable. I mean, that's really strong. And in the femoral neck, once again, that's where the hip fractures by 2.2%. All this without the use of calcium. The evidence showed that bone breakdown was slowed and the rate of bone building was accelerated back to seen in much younger women. The women also experienced an improvement in the quality of their sleep, you would expect that, and in their mood was clicked up a couple of levels. Now, because melatonin affects the immune system, we don't know of its impact on people with autoimmune diseases, so I don't recommend that. So people with a particular type of arthritis called rheumatoid arthritis, or people with systemic lupus erythematosus, any of those autoimmune diseases, they shouldn't use melatonin because we just don't know what it does for an autoimmune disease. Does it help it? Does it hurt it? They need to research that. A number of studies show that melatonin may reduce the frequency of headaches and have an effect on improving depressive symptoms, clicking your mood up a number of levels. But once again, this type of research is in its infancy. Melatonin may also help tinnitus, ringing in the ears. About 30-40 million adults in America have ringing in the ears, and there's some pretty interesting studies showing it helps. But once again, that's at an early stage of development. We need more data on that. But it does so many good things. Melatonin may also be needed to retain a full head of hair, but that research also needs to develop. Melatonin has anti-cancer effects, and I'll discuss that in a future episode because there's a lot to say about that. For now, we do know that melatonin is important for bone building, for helping to control elevated blood pressure, for the immune system's ability to fight infection, viruses and bacteria, for the health and function of your digestive tract, and for a good night's sleep, making melatonin a very impressive supplement for sure. Thank you for tuning in to the Invite Health Podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Please make sure you subscribe and please leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. We'll see you on the next time on another episode of the Invite Health Podcast, and thank you so much for listening today.